Alright guys, for the cracks for my lath and plaster, I'm going to be drilling it and using this to glue into the holes that I drill onto the lath board. And this is the only one I could find at the local Home Depot that actually says that it works on plaster, wood and plaster. And that's exactly what you need. So say you got a crack, I got one right here. Just pretend it's not a hairline crack, say it's a little bigger like one of those up there. Well, you can drill with a masonry bit on the sides of it and put this in there and glue it, and then use some screws to hold it down overnight, and it will actually take your loose lath and plaster and re-secure it to those little lath boards. Alright, so my local Home Depot store nearby my house doesn't have the screws with the washer nuts to keep the drywall or plaster in when you screw on the side of it to hold it in. So I had some washers in my garage, a little bit bigger, so what you can use is just get some little smaller washers and then get some drywall screws, coarse thread. Alright, so I'm up here inspecting the crack. I scored it with the razor blade inside and I was able to catch the lath here. I screwed a hole here and here to inject some glue, and it's not terribly bad, but you can see if I push up, there is some movement there. See that? I don't know, like 1/8 of an inch movement, I guess. This side is a little bit lower, just a little bit. I'm not gonna take chances. And what I'm using is a masonry bit. I think it's 3/16. Okay, and that doesn't allow it to go through the wood lath, so it'll go through the plaster, but then when it hits the lath, it stops. Let's see if I could do another one about right here. All right, looks like I hit lath. All right. See? So that's what you want. If you don't hit the lath, it's okay. Just put an X on it and don't put glue in there. So I'm going to do this crack because this looks like the biggest crack in the wall. All the other ones look like just kind of like small hairline cracks. A couple other little ones that I might do this too, but for the majority, this is probably the worst one in the ceiling so far. Alright, so I finished drilling my holes, and I just did this crack right here pretty much, and a couple other ones. As you can see, I still got a crack going this way, so I got to still drill that crack, and a couple, one right down here in the middle too. But as far as this crack goes, that one's all done. Okay. Next, I'm going to vacuum all those holes out, get all the debris out. Alright, so I'm going to use just warm water in a bottle to condition this. You know, that's all I'm going to use. And from what I read up, the whole point of water on this plaster is to keep the moisture in whatever you put on it from the plaster from sucking out the moisture in your whatever, if you're putting up joint compound or plaster, whatever you're putting on there, you don't want it to suck up the moisture in the product. So in this glue that I'm using, it's also sticks to moisture and water and stuff. It says on it on the bottle, so it's not going to do anything to the Loctite stuff that I'm using. So I'm going to go and do that to every hole. Alright, so I finished injecting all the adhesive in the holes I did. I had a couple of washers in the crack. What I found out what works better, at least for me in my situation, is just to get the sheetrock screws and just go right into the hole that I put the glue in and just go down a little bit, you know, a little bit lower, and that seemed to lift it up better. Just be careful because this stuff is crumbly if you do it that way. Yeah, I don't know why they just use glues and why don't they just use screws. I don't know. If you pre-drill this plaster, it doesn't crumble so bad. So you could even countersink the hole if you wanted to, if you're worried about it, because it can crack it still, even though if you pre-drill it, it still can crack it. Like right here, see that? How it kind of chips up the plaster. If you countersink the hole so it can go down, so it's level, so you don't have to put a lot of compounds over it, joint compounds, then you could do that too. Alright guys, so after gluing these holes, I pretty much put screws, 1.25" sheetrock screws in most of them. Some of them weren't catching into the lath too good, so I didn't do them, put them in, but it's working. I can push on it now. You don't see any movement when I push on this. So this system works for me. I don't know if you guys watch this video and think it'll work for you. It might, because like I said, I've tested it. It's working for me. But just using the glue by itself, I mean, it probably would work, but I just didn't want to chance it, and I decided to put screws. And you can see there's a really bad crack here, and there's no movement in it, and that's because I got screws on both sides. Yeah, the glue's there too, so the glue's going to be doing its part, but just be on the safe side. And this seems to be working. You know, so many different people on YouTube, online, saying different things, but sometimes you just got to do what works for you and trial and error and do it yourself, and this is working for me, so that's the way I'm going to do it. I'm going to go and skim coat this, fill in the crack with some joint compound, and then I'm going to put some mesh tape over the crack too, and then go over it with some more compound, which is not a plaster that I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using just joint compound, easy sand, 90 minutes. Alright, I glued up this section over here now, drilled it and put some glue in there, or adhesive. And then I want to put some screws in. This is what I do. I just, when the glue is still wet, just go and insert it. And don't have it too much force on it. I got it barely on like 3 setting for the drill. If you over tighten it, it's going to just suck in the screw real far in, and then it's gonna have no effect on holding the wall up. So, but that's it. That's about it. And you can see I again used a countersink, so I don't have to worry about it not going in far enough because I already got a countersink for that screw, and that helps keep it from breaking up the plaster too. Alright, finished up another crack. This one's quite big. You can see. I went and scored it with a knife, and then it was not real loose, but you could tell one was high and one was low. And once I screwed in all the screws, it's nice and tight. Look at that. No movement in it. So this is definitely working. Okay, and then also I had a hairline crack here, which I don't think you really need to score it too much because it's just a hairline. So what I did was I just put some fiber mesh tape over that hairline, okay, everywhere that there was the hairline. And for this bigger crack, I think I'm just going to put the joint compound inside before I put the mesh tape on, because I have a feeling if you put the mesh tape on first, very little compound is going to go through the little holes. See what I'm saying? And then it's not going to get all up in the crack. So I'll fill up the major cracks first with the compound, and then afterwards I'll put the mesh over that once it dries, and I'll sand it, and I'll put the mesh tape on, and then I'll go over it one more time to cover up the mesh tape. Same thing with this. I had some hairline cracks over here. Instead of just going over it with some joint compound, I want to give it some reinforcement, and so that's why I put down the tape. Reviews on this tape are up and down. Some people like it, some people hate it. I don't know, I've never used it, so I'll find out after this. But I think I'm good. I got I'd say 1/4 of this ceiling done. So I think I'm gonna mix up some fast sand 90-minute mud. So easy sand 90 is what I used for a joint compound. Couldn't find any plaster at the Home Depot. I think they sell plaster de Paris in a can pre-mixed, but I don't want to use that. Everybody's online's been using this particular easy sand on plaster, and they said it works good, so hopefully I don't get any other problems with this. So I did do the hairlines with some fiberglass mesh tape over there. Here, there's no tape on it. I just went over it because I wanted to fill it before I put the tape and go over it again. That'll be the second coat that I do. And then I had enough mud, as they call it, to come over here and do this crack too. And I put a couple pieces of tape there. So that one's all done. It just needs probably a skim coat. Gotta wear a mask when you're doing this. It gets very dusty. So anyways, that's how it looks. It's my first time ever fixing not sheetrock, but plaster. So I'm learning as I go. And I'm watching a lot of videos, seeing how everybody does stuff. And nobody does anything the same way. Everybody's got their own style, their own method, their own steps to doing this. So I don't know if this is the right steps, but this is what I'm doing, and hopefully it works. It seems like the plaster, at least screwing it on the way I did, kept it from moving. I didn't feel any movement after I did that, but we'll see. We'll see if it, in the long run, how long that will last. And I got it on video now, so I can go back if I ever forget what I did and look at it and go, okay, that's what I did, and that worked or it didn't work. I'm pretty sure it's going to work though. Next, I'm kind of tired for today, so you can see what I did today was just this section, and I still got over there and right here. So I still got a couple big cracks. There's a huge one right here going right there. That one's probably going to need to be screwed down as well and glued. And same with this one. This got a huge crack that runs all the way across. That's probably a foundation settlement crack, because it goes all the way across. So that's going to have to be screwed on and glued the way I did the other side. I'll just continue doing this side as well. And then after that is a little small crack here. Might screw that one too. It depends on how loose it is when I touch it. And there's a big one there. It's a big chunk right there. But other than that, 1, 2, 3, there's like 4 more to do that I got to screw, and the rest are just hairline cracks. That every hairline crack that I see, I'll just put fiber mesh over it, and then skim coat it a couple times with the joint compound. Hopefully that takes care of it, which I'm sure it will, because again, those are just hairline cracks. Anyways, Jacob, and this is my project at my house, built in 1867, so it's very old, and it's got some pretty cool, ornament pieces like that. And this trim is really beautiful. I think they call it a cornice, and that's straight up plaster. There's no wood to it, which is amazing. I don't know if they did it by hand back in the day, or if they had it pre-built and glued it up. I have no idea how this stuff was made, but if it is by hand, that's pretty amazing work. But I doubt it's by hand, because that would be like impossible for me to do, to replicate the same design over and over. My guess is they make this in plaster and then they glued it up somehow. That's what my guess is, or they plastered it up somehow. Used the plaster as glue or something. I don't know. I don't know that much about it, but Maybe you guys in England, I know there's a lot of people in England that have this stuff. Maybe you guys can chime in the comments section and let me know how they actually make that stuff and how they install it. Alright, so today what I'm doing is sanding all the compound down with 150 grit. And remember, I filled in this crack here, but I didn't put any mesh tape on it. So what I did was I sanded it, and now I put a mesh tape over it. So now I'm going to go with my second coat over that crack, which is mostly filled. There's a little bit of voids, but not very many. And that should keep the crack from reopening, because I filled it, and now I'm going to put mesh tape and fill it over it. This is a lot like working on cars, on a bumper, or sanding a car down. It's body work, pretty much. Well, the sanding part is. And I just got to finish up right here, and then I'll tape that up too, that line right here. And then I'll go over it with my second coat of easy sand. Alright, so found another crack, and I was able to, move it. So I did the same thing, except for this time I ditched the glue. I'm not using the adhesive anymore, because if I'm just going to put the whole screw in, there's no point. The adhesive, the whole point of that was to glue it and then remove this whatever screws you had there and just let the glue do its work. But this way I'm just holding it by the screws, and it seems just to work probably even better than adhesive. So I don't know why in the world that adhesive thing got all over YouTube as a way to fix lath and plaster that's falling. In my opinion, this works way better. Drill a hole with a masonry bit, put your screw in. I also use one of these. That way, when the screw goes in, it countersinks in. That's a countersink tool that I used a little bit. So that, and then you put the screw, and then I can literally see it when I screw this in, suck right up. Like when you screw this side, you'll see the wall actually lift up, and you screw the other side, you'll see that side lift up. And that's what you want. You want this thing to be nice and tight, and usually where the cracks are, that's telling you, hey, lath problem, so you don't have to go and put screws all over it, because you could see I even have it open here. The lath is fine everywhere else. It's just where those cracks are. So, and you can see I got a huge crack over here that I gotta put screws on as well. I already started put some screws on this one, going all the way across. And see, so this is gonna be my method. I'm still using the razor blade and cutting out a little bit, notching this out, and then putting my tape, my fiber tape over that. Alright, so it's starting to look a little bit like Frankenstein's skin. You can see how many screws I put in on the crack. I think I got everything done except for this one last crack here. But if it's not hanging down too much, I'll just put some tape there, mesh tape. Unless I feel like it's hanging, then I'll put some screws. But I think I missed one spot over here in the corner too, right there. But the majority of it's ready to mud. Alright, so I was just going to do the ceiling in here. But because the wallpaper here wasn't too bad, but I couldn't help myself. There was a few bubbles in it, and I just started scraping away, and before I knew it, one little bubble was scraping everywhere, and then before I knew it, all was everywhere, and almost done. So, yeah, adhesive is still here, so I'll just spray this with water and scrape it off. I was gonna go and buy that. Home Depot has a steamer that takes off wallpaper. I might still buy it because I still got all that wall there to do. I mean, if I did it here, I might as well do it everywhere. It's only 50 bucks, the steamer, so I might go and buy that because some of this stuff scrapes off, but some of it is just really hard to get off. And you can see it's probably lead paint on the wallpaper, so I gotta go and sweep this up every time I make a mess. Alright, so here's the end result after putting hot mud up there a couple times, using an 8-inch trowel and then a 12-inch trowel. And when I went to the 12-inch trowel, instead of using hot mud, I got all-purpose, USG all-purpose joint compound. This is pre-mixed in a, in the bucket, and that stuff is better to use because it's pre-mixed and it's what you want to top coat over the hot mud and stuff. I haven't sanded it, the last layer that I put up there. It just needs to be, could wet sand it with a sponge to get it nice and smooth. I probably could primer it and paint it the way it is, but I'm thinking, because it's so old, just to skim coat it. And what I do for the skim coating was grab some of this, put it in my pan, and just add a little bit of water to get it real thin, and then just go over everything, just skim coat everything, all these spots that I missed, just so when I prime and paint it, I don't have any flashing between the colors. It might not have any flashing issues, or tiger stripes, whatever you want to call it, but I don't know, I don't want to chance it. All the work I did, that would be a bummer to primer and paint and then see lines and stuff. I don't want that to happen, so I'm just gonna probably skim coat it most likely. From that, I switched over to the wallpaper on the walls itself, and most of it started coming off, but there's a few stubborn spots that did not want to come off, so I had to go to Home Depot and buy a steamer wallpaper remover, which is pretty much a steamer. And it's got like a little, this connects to the edge or to the end of it, of the hose, and there's a bigger one than this, but I think I put it in the other room, and just you hold it up there and then it heats it up and then it helps you to scrape it. This will actually even start melting the paint. The old paint will start melting. That's how hot it gets. So I stopped right here. I still got to do this wall. I soon realized after I started to take the wallpaper off that it actually helps, helps it, keeps it from chipping. It actually gives strength to the wall. So if you can, and the walls they're not too bad, try to keep the wallpaper on because it actually keeps the plaster together. I noticed how brittle the plaster is once I took off the wallpaper. But I had to do it because it's got cracks here and there, and I really want to fix all those cracks. Like there's this crack here. And yeah, I could have probably just, took the wallpaper off where the crack was, but I never did this before, so I just got a little carried away. And believe me, there's hours and hours of work to peel all this wallpaper off. You can see there, it's a good crack. So I scored it open so when I put the compound, the hot mud, it's gonna stay there. From what I hear and from what I've seen even, is when you go over it, you think it's just a hairline crack and you go over it, that crack tends to go through your compounds all the way to the surface, and then you'll see the small crack again. So that hopefully by gouging it out, that will keep that from happening, hopefully. But we'll see. I'll be able to look at this video years from now and go, that method worked or that method didn't work, because by that time we'll see the cracks come back or not. So yeah, I got some cracks over there. This one I had a crack too, so I'm gonna have to peel that one off too. There's a big crack, hairline crack going there, and one over there. But that's where I'm at. So The ceiling's pretty much almost done. Here I had a plumbing issue, that's why it's cut out. I'll have to put sheetrock in there to fill it later, but that's how it came out, and that's a wrap for this video. That's the work that I did just for the ceiling, and believe me, that's a good week's work right there, just on the ceiling itself. You know, one day I worked on this for a good 13 hours in this room, sanding and ripping the wallpaper off. Hopefully this room will look nice in the end when I'm done.